I'm obsessed with two things, leadership and productivity. You see, in my early 20s, I had a dream to become an entrepreneur. I thought I was going to be the next Bill Gates, but my first company failed after just 1 year. I tried again, and that company failed as well. But since then, I've gone on to start, grow, and sell several multi-million-dollar companies. So what was the difference? Turns out, I was the difference. I finally figured out how to engage my team so they were totally committed to our mission and gave all of their discretionary effort. I also learned the difference between being busy and being truly effective. I became literally 10 times more productive while actually spending less time at work. Great managers understand this duality of leadership. You need to master both people and profits. You need to focus on both retention and results. Imagine for just a minute that you could actually cast a magic spell on all of your team members. And suddenly, they showed up a little earlier every day, stayed a little later before they went home. They worked a little faster, they were more productive, made fewer mistakes. They were loyal. There was no risk that they were going to leave for the competition. And even if they don't tell you in person, they think you're the best boss they ever had. I'm going to teach you how to cast that magic spell this morning. I wrote the book We because I wanted to understand employee engagement at a deeper level. We looked at over 10 million employee surveys in 150 countries. Who's engaged and who isn't, and what are the drivers of employee engagement? What we discovered is that there are specific things managers can do, things that don't require a lot of time or money, to trigger these feelings of emotional commitment among their team members. The best workplace compliment I ever got, it didn't come from somebody who worked for me, it came from the spouse of someone who worked for me. And I'll never forget it. It was at the end of the year annual holiday party, almost midnight, and Becky came up, drink in hand, and said, "Before we go, I just want to say thanks." And I said, "Oh, no problem, Becky, glad you guys could come out. We had such a great year." Just, no, I'm not thanking you for the party. I'm thanking you for making my marriage better. I didn't know Becky very well, and I knew nothing about her marriage. So I think she saw the look on my face, and she said, "Before my husband joined your team, he would come home and be such a grump, I wouldn't want to be around him. Then he joined your team, and he went back to being the man I married." Sounds like a Hollywood movie line. I didn't make it up. He went back to being the man I married. Psychologists call this the spillover and crossover effect. Our emotions at work spill over into our personal lives and cross over to those around us. So we've talked about sort of the why of leadership. Why is this important to our businesses? Why is it important for individuals? But now let's talk about the how. How do you be a great leader? What is it that you're doing that's engaging your workers so much? How did you get to this room? And when you boil it all down, it comes down to three things. People want to experience growth, recognition, and trust. We all want to grow and advance in our job, in our career. Recognition, we want to feel appreciated, not just by our manager, but also by our peers and others. And trust is, I trust that we have a bright future. It's like a future confidence. I trust that the leadership has a plan, and we're going to get there. We're going to climb to the top of that mountain. Brighter days are ahead. When it comes to time management, so many of us are feeling overworked and overwhelmed. When we stay late in the office, we feel guilty that we aren't with our kids, and when we're with our kids, we feel stressed out because we're not getting our work done. But imagine if you could ask the world's most successful people what their secrets for time management are. Imagine calling up over 200 self-made millionaires, including many Silicon Valley CEOs, and asking, what's your number one secret to time management and getting so much done? Well, that's exactly what I did, and I boiled down everything I heard into 15 different habits, 15 different ideas that we can all use to free ourselves from that constant guilt and stress we so often feel. Mark Cuban was one of the billionaires I had a chance to weigh in. And these questions were just open-ended. What is your number one piece of advice when it comes to productivity or time management? What's the number one piece of advice? It could be anything. And then I looked at all their answers and coded them down. So what would Mark Cuban tell you is the number one secret of productivity? He says, never take meetings unless someone is writing you a check. Typical Cuban, right? We are not all in the position of Mark Cuban to refuse all meetings unless someone's walking in with a bag of cash. And to be clear, Cuban takes meetings with people on his own team. He calls meetings. The theme from the billionaire group, the common thread, was meetings. They value their time literally more than anyone else. Their time is worth more than anyone else. And their thing was stay out of meetings.
I think the main thing that I took away was the morning routines. Just really priming yourself for the day, priming yourself for success, and setting that most important thing for the day. That's something that I've done at different points in time and felt like I've gone into the day with a lot of energy. And as I get away from it, I don't have that same energy. So just hearing how that affects people and how important it is to him, to me, was great to hear.
What do these things have in common? Sex, drugs, gambling, and email. I noticed some of you have started to take some notes. What do they all have in common? Dopamine. Dopamine is the chemical in the brain. They call it the love drug. Dopamine is what's released for all good things. They've shown that email, social media messages, text messages, all the same, those buzzes, those reactions that you're getting on the phone, it's releasing dopamine. Every time you pick up your phone to see, ooh, who sent me a text? Ooh, who sent me an email? It's like pulling the handle on the slot machine. Every now and then it gives you something positive, and it's like a game. The first step in battling email and our phones is to just take ownership for at least part of the problem. Anybody know what FOMO means? What is FOMO? Fear of missing out. How many of us have FOMO, right? And I know you're entrepreneurs, you're in a service business, I need to respond to everybody. This is the one that entrepreneurs struggle with the most. Single best thing you can do for your productivity, for extreme productivity and less stress, turn off email notifications. How do you get to inbox zero? This system is called the 4 Ds. We need to get out of the habit of checking email, check, 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 and we need to start processing email. This is from a stranger, Lime Tree. Looks like she really loves her cat. She sent this tweet, 5,000 to inbox zero. I did it. Thank you, Kruse. Mind blowing.
Kevin Kruse is our first guest today. He is going to tell us, he's a leadership expert, welcome to the show, why successful people never bring smartphones into meetings.
There are some underlying issues that drive the reasons why people use their smartphones in their meetings.
Okay.
I think what happened was just recently, survey research came out that showed that we could possibly be insulting our colleagues without knowing about it with our cell phone use. You're not their doctor, but how you lead has an impact on their health. You're not a school teacher, and yet what you say every day has an impact on how their kids are going to behave in school. You're not a marriage counselor, but what you do day to day impacts, are they going to go home and hug their spouse or argue with their spouse? It's an incredible responsibility, it's an incredible obligation, and you're in a position to make a huge difference in everyone's lives. Leadership is not a choice. What have I done lately to foster growth, recognition, and trust? And when you implement growth, recognition, and trust, all of your team members and their families will benefit from full engagement. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Thanks.